Welcome to the Wallcliffe Fire Brigade station. I know quite a few have been here before. My name's Gordon Temby. I'm one of the Fire Brigade members. I'm one of the firefighters, same as Scotty is up there. I'm also one of the officers in the brigade, and I do wear a few different hats. One of the hats I wear is the Bushfire Ready Facilitator. Can I just have a quick show of hands, anybody who's been involved with bushfires or caught up in bushfires? Lady over there, that's fine. A couple here, so you've had a bit of experience. So what I'd like to do is, as we go through it, if you've got any questions or any experiences you want to pass on, just let us know and we can talk about how you've dealt with things when you've been involved with the bushfires. Bushfire brigades in this shire and most of the shires outside of Perth, the structures involved, they're all volunteers. Our closest career firefighters are actually in Bunbury. So we're all volunteers, where nobody gets paid for what we do. And we're similar to the SES, the Volunteer Marine Rescue, and the Fire and Rescue groups. So they're all volunteers. So most of you are aware of that. But sometimes we have people coming down from Perth and they think that we're all career firefighters and we're going to turn up at the front of the doorstep when there's a fire around. We've got day jobs, most of us. Quite a few of the guys in brigades are also retired. So certain times of the year they're not here, they're overseas, or they're tripping around their caravans and that sort of thing. So it's a bit of a mixed group, so be aware. A couple of acronyms I'll talk about is the word DEFIS. That's the Department of Fire and Emergency Services. So I keep saying that and I forget that people don't know what DEFIS means. So that department is the umbrella group, if you like, looks after all the emergency services in the state of WA. Not only the bushfires, but the SES, the Marine Rescue, Fire and Rescue, and a couple of other ones as well. So that's the guy. The other ones, little groups you'll hear about down here is the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, DBCA. They've had numerous name changes over the last few years. It used to be DEC, used to be CALM, all those groups. And they're more the people who are out in the national parks and the forestry areas. And those people are paid people. Okay? They're the only paid people as far as firefighters go we've got in our shire, if you like. In our shire, we've got over half the area is under DBCA tenure because of the big national park we've got here, all the way from Augusta up towards Yallingup. And we've got some big crown timber reserves further out as well. Attached to the DBCA is also the Parks and Wildlife. The other little abbreviation here is BFF, Bushfire Brigade. You'll see our abbreviation BF, that's Bushfire Brigades. And this one, FRS, is Fire and Rescue Service, or the Fire and Rescue Brigades. So they're in our shire as well, of course. This particular brigade is a mix of those two. We're a dual registered brigade, Wallcliffe Brigade, so we're bushfire and also fire and rescue. The community, or the group I'm involved with, is the Community Engagement Department. It's a part of DEFIS, and they look after these community type meetings. So they're a community group which look after preparing communities for bushfires. The other thing that will come up in our conversations will be when we talk about safer places and welfare centres. If we have fires in the area, you'll find that in your plans it says go to a safer place. And always people ask me, what is a safer place? The safer place could be the house next door, which is safer than your place. And the best example I can give, if you're living in a timbered area and you've got a nice cedar-clad house, okay, and just down the road is a farmer, right, with all this green grass around it, with a dairy or something there, and a nice brick house, tile roof, that's a safer place than your place. So it's all in the definition. You've got to look around and find a safer place. There might be a new house just built up the road from where you are, which you can see it's well cleared, and they built it in the middle of the paddock, and the trees haven't had a chance to grow up yet and cover the house. So that's a safer place than your place, or might be. So there's no definition. You've got to find out where the safer place might be. I've been to a few areas or a few talks where people have put their hand up and say, well, my house is a pretty safe place. I built it just recently to the Australian standards, the new standards of bushfire protection, ember proof, everything else proof. Similar to that building over there, you can see on that big TV screen there, which photo was taken the other week. That was in New South Wales. The guy had to evacuate the house. He said, no, I'm all going. That was the plan, go early, and they did. They took off. They left, they came back, and the fire roared through there. It was a horrendous fire, and well, there goes the house, it's gone. They came back, and now it was still sitting there. The only damage you can see on there is the downpipes melted. And also you can't see it from that photo, but one end of his solar hot water unit melted because it's plastic. That house was designed, built as per the new Australian standards. He did go a little bit over and above what he was required to do. In other words, he put shutters in all the windows and the doors. Big shutters came down. But apart from that, and I've been through the specifications of that, and I'm a builder by trade, it's no different from the recent houses I've been building. In other words, it's got to be up to that standard. You know, no gaps around the place so the embers can get in and all that type of thing. And no, you know, big trees right next to it. He cleared. He had a bush block. He had lots of vegetation around there, a lot of flame, a lot of intensity coming off the burning thing. But yeah, I just melted the downpipes. And when they walked into the house and walked in the front door, the air inside was better than the air outside. There was still a lot of smoke around when they got there. So they just liked to go up and stayed in the house because it's better in the house than outside. There's no smoky outside. Okay. Emergency evacuation areas. Who was here in the 2011 fires? Yep, okay, probably over half of you. We had the welfare centre set up in Margaret River at the cultural centre, and that was signposted, and that was called the welfare centre or the emergency centre, whatever I wanted to call it. And that's where you dropped in there and you could register, you could pick up supplies and that type of thing if you were actually evacuating or leaving your house. That's a little bit different, the safer place. Okay, that's where you actually go to in a big fire. The welfare centres won't be advertised, unlike some places in Australia. They put signs up and saying this is the emergency evacuation place here, or the welfare centre where you want to go in a major disaster. The reason we don't advertise is because we don't know which way the fire is coming. The fire could start close to Margaret River and impact Margaret River, so that place could be on fire. And out here, or where you are, could be safer than in there. So that advertising or the informing the community where the safer place to go to would be advertised over the computers, over your Facebook pages and through the media and through the IT structure. So that's how that's worked. You're probably all aware of this document. You have that sent out to you with the rates, or just a week or two after the rates. That's what they used to call the fire break notice, or still, yeah, it's just called the fire break notice. That's a requirement. That's a bylaw, so it's a legal requirement. And I'm just letting you know that, because when we go through this documentation, we talk about preparing your house. Make sure you comply with whatever the Shire or the local government's requiring you to do. So whatever it says in there is a legal requirement. And as it says in one of the pages, the amount of money you can be charged if you don't do it, or you get fined, that sort of thing. So it's important. I'm sure you're all aware of that document as far as things like fire breaks and clearing that asset protection zone around your house to a certain requirement. So you can talk about that and ask questions about that, but that's a little document you've got to be aware of. It ties in with a lot of the preparing for any sort of bushfires. It's important in there also, it mentions in there about the prohibited burning periods and the restricted burning periods. And is everybody okay what they mean by that? Like, we're in a prohibited burning period now. That means there's no fires at all. Like, if Scotty walked outside there and saw some smoke coming from somewhere, he'd be straight on the phone, ring 000, and that would then activate a number of things. It activates the Parks and Wildlife vehicles, it activates the fire brigade, it activates our red fire and rescue truck, it activates the 2 heli-taxis that take off from Busselton, and activates the crews from Manjimup to start moving their staff over here. Just because of one little smoke sighting. Okay, so that's how it's worked out. It's called a zone response. We don't muck around these days. And also it activates 2 bombers to take off from Bunbury. Every time we take a bomber off, it takes $2,000 to take it off. And that gets written off. Scotty's really quick. He whizzes down, he puts the fire out. And he'll say, stand down, everybody stand down. The bombers will turn around, go to the ocean, drop their load and land back in Bunbury. So we've been told, never hesitate to activate the aerial support. Don't worry about the cost. So we don't worry about the cost, the dollars don't come into it. The amount of money they save in assets has been proven that it's worth getting those pilots in the planes and getting them up there. So that's always on the go. The heli-taxis from Busselton, they're normally over top of us before the guys take the appliances out of this station, because our call-out time, they say, historically is about 20 minutes. I live fairly close, Scotty lives fairly close, but some other guys live close to the Margaret River. It takes a while for them to all come in here and man up the vehicles. Okay, so 20 minutes is a rough estimate for us to get the vehicle down to your place or wherever the fire might be. In here is all the other dates, and when it goes into restricted period, that's happening, and I've got to make sure I say the right dates here, of course. The 15th of March. So we're really up to prohibited up to the 15th of March. So you've got January, February, the middle of March. And after that, if the weather permits, you may see some smoke going up because people have got a permit to burn. Well, the Bushfire Brigade have got a permit to go and do a fuel reduction burn on somebody's block. So at the middle of March, don't panic too much, but what you should do is you ring up a little number. That's a 1300 number, which I'll show you about shortly, just for information. It's not a life-threatening number, you don't ring that. You only ring 000 for life-threatening incidents. When we go out and fight the fires, of course, we all mobilise to fight the fire. As soon as we get out there, it's been hammered into us as far as firefighters. Get a report back or a situation report back as soon as you can, because we need to let the community know what's happening. It's the fires on this road, that road. We tell them all these different things, like how long it's going to take us to control it. Do we need more assets, more appliances to turn up and this type of thing? How big's the fire? All that information goes up to Perth and it goes on the computer. And that's what happens when you turn on your Emergency WA webpage, and you'll see it. It's clicked on there and you'll see there's a fire up on Kays Road up there, and this is what's happening. And the reason they know it, because Scotty, whoever went up there, told them on the radio back to us and we relayed it through. So it's very important we keep the people informed. One reason for that is, on that road also, is a lot of tourists with mobile phones. When they see something like that, quite often, and it happens all the time, they'll go straight to Facebook and say, there's a wildfire here, people are being killed on Kays Road. It happens, okay? And we haven't got to the station yet. So we've got to be very careful to get there as quick as we can and counteract any misinformation with the correct information. And it's caused problems, but we're getting better at it. We haven't got to the extent of the Victorian guys yet, where the helicopters go up, the helicopter goes up with their media people in the helicopter to go to fight the fire. They just stand back, of course, and they take videos of the fire and are relaying the information continuously to overlap the misinformation on Twitter and Facebook. That's how bad it is sometimes, okay? You've just got to overlay. So everybody refers back to their Emergency Victoria or Emergency WA web pages to know exactly what's going on. So there's a couple of other things which I think we do touch on, emergency alerts, which come through on your phones as well. If there's a big emergency, your phones will go off and there'll be a message coming up or a text message saying there's an emergency in your location. It's normally bound by a certain this road, and that road, so it's in an area, you know, and it'll say you're going to be impacted by a fire. So that's an emergency alert. What it does, if we want to send out an emergency alert, we tell the people the road parameters. We ask them to activate every phone which is in there. And you go up to Perth and they just put a loop on their computer, they push one button and all our phones go off. All the phones that are registered by Telstra and Optus in that area will go off. It's an automatic IT structure, so no matter where you are. So that's something which works in emergency alerts. That's not something which is used a lot, but it is around the place, so be aware of that. The Emergency WA webpage is very important, so I ask you to do that all the time. Keep checking on it when it's a really bad day, like, you know, the north winds and hot weather. Just go and put it up as one of your favourites on your computer. Just click on it, you know, what's going on. And of course, if you click on it now, I did before I came down here, there's a couple of all clears up in Perth, a couple of fires they've had, but nothing major. On that will be a road accident at somewhere. There will be a chemical spill at Kwinana. There always is at Kwinana. There's something else going. All these things come up, and there's, you know, which don't interest you, but they're there on the same. Just keep scrolling down, and it goes down for a couple of days, and some of them are actually being cleared off, and they just keep deleting them as they get fixed up or cleared or put out or whatever it might be. So that's information open to the public. There's no sort of classifications or anything of that. It's there for you people to look at, so you're always aware what's going on. If you go into other things, on my phone at the moment,
to burn. Yeah, mate, no, they're okay. What they're looking for is actually water. Johnny and Adam's asked us to draw from their main supply here, mate, so they're actually just sourcing that water. So what you're seeing is just a reconnaissance looking for water. We'll probably head over towards the Coron, mate, get water out of Coron. Over.
Okay, thanks, Brett. Yeah, just to make it clear that We don't need this put out along Baroomba Creek, Honeysuckle Creek. It needs to burn.
It's got to come down. You know where that is? Honeysuckle?
No intentions to any
Canberra. That's the Canberra fires. That's a direct link to the radios. On the cruise, there's stuff at the bottom of that big mountain range there.
Thanks, Fred. Sarge out.
So that's IT. That's anybody can download that app, and you listen anywhere over the world to any of the emergency services on those apps these days. There's nothing secret. Some is pretty hard to listen to when you've got wildfires. With those ones in Sydney, there's guys tearing off and losing houses left, right, and centre. It's coming over the radio because guys link into that internet structure, and it's there. You can't stop it. It's interesting to listen to sometimes as far as firefighters go. Could be pick up a few training things in relation to communications and what have you, but that's out there. I'll leave it with you. There is an app out there you can put on your phones if you really want to go down that track. Facebook and Twitter accounts, yes, DFIS have got a Facebook and Twitter account. We've got one, Wallcliffe Fire Brigade have got one. I'm sure you've been remortgaging your house now because you've had to put out a donation for the Wallcliffe Brigade. But the newsletter that goes out, it just went out a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't got one, I think you'd have one by now, most of you anyway. The landowners have. It goes to their property addresses. In there's a donation to the brigades, and that all brigades sort of do that as well. So, and we thank you for your donations. That room in there, which cost about $30,000 with all the IT in it, that was coming out of the people who donated money to this brigade. We did get some money from the state government as well to pay for a couple of radio links, but that's the sort of thing we do. We keep ourselves upgrading as far as our resources go, so it's important to do that. But the Facebook, the Wallcliffe Facebook, once again, is a good resource to use if you're not aware of what's happening on. You might want to click onto that as one of your favourites, because come that restricted burning period, when we're doing a lot of fuel reduction burns, we're going out in the middle of the day and we've been doing a lot of burning around the town site and the smoke goes up. If you go onto your Facebook page in the morning, the guys put it up that what burns they're going to do. We'll be burning at the Pony Club this week, or we'll be down near the river doing a burn down this week. For seeing any smoke, bring the washing in. Just little pages that the guys put up on the Wallcliffe Facebook page. So that's something handy one to have if you're living in the Wallcliffe Fire Brigade area. Our area, Wallcliffe, goes from the town basically to the coast, Budgetup Road to the south, and Carter's Road to the north. That's our patch of turf here. We're one of 10 brigades in the Shire. So it's all divided up into different brigades, bushfire brigades. And last one about my little notes, it's very important, is making sure that when you have your plan, one of your plans are you have good insurance coverage on your houses. Can't emphasise enough. If you've got a house worth, let's pull the figure out, 500,000, $500,000 for your houses, you build a decent house, spend the money out, just 500,000 for this house, make sure you put 20% on it, make it 600. The premiums won't go up a great deal for that figure, but that's the sort of coverage we're asking people to do, what you think it might be worth. They're finding out now, the people in the eastern states, that they're underinsured because of a number of things. One thing is that a lot of insurance companies, not all, don't allow for removal of the rubbish. In other words, the house is just burned down. All the tin and all that rubbish that comes from it. So quite often you've got to fork out money for that, and that's pretty expensive. Also earthworks. When you're doing earthworks, quite often that's not included. They just want to build a house, bang, there, not landscaping. So it's not in the insurance policy. So be aware of all that. Okay, so make sure you've got that sorted. And I mentioned before about the compliance with this new regulations, like that house over there. The cost of building your older house before these regs came in was a lot cheaper than it is now. As a builder, I'm aware of that. They're doing all this, fire protection in the building, so that's going to cost more. So make sure you allow for that when you're costing your house out. People forget when they've got to fill their insurance claims out. They say, well, the question's always asked: how much the contents in your house? What do you have in your house? Now you've just left quickly and you've lost everything. Right? It's gone. I don't remember what was in the house, and you can sit down for ages and keep thinking of things. And when you finally set off the claim, a week after you set off, you forgot. Oh, yeah, what our grandmother's diamond necklace we lost, all that sort of stuff. So you've got to have a good list of things. So I always ask people, because of what we've got mobile phones and things these days, you go in every room in your house, open all the doors up in your wardrobes and the drawers and that sort of thing, stand in the middle of the room and do the 4 points of the compass, take a photo with your mobile phone. If you've got some way of having a card in your phone, okay, just has to have a dedicated card in your phone so you can take those photos, click, 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 every room in your house. Then go outside your house and take the 4 points of the compass of the house, the 4 elevations of the outside of the house, back at your house. So you know what it used to look like. Okay, so you've got that proof. If you've got all that information, then come back inside, get your birth certificate, your passport, your marriage licence, whatever else, your insurance policy, the last time you paid it, there, your car regos, there. Take a photo with your mobile phone on the same cards and everything. Take all that. Anything else you can think of is important. Grab that card, take it out of your phone, give it to somebody, one of your children or your relations or your friends who live in some place like Perth or somewhere a long way away, okay? And make sure it's secure there. That is peace of mind when you're tearing down the road with a fire chasing you, knowing that you've got everything covered, house burns down, well, I can go to the insurance guy, show him all these photos and put in a decent claim. And I'm not going to stress out about trying to remember all these things, so it's important to do that. We do ask people, look, if you're really organised, of course, when we go and look at these, how you have a plan, to make sure you have a grab kit or a box of something at home. And then you'll find out a lot of the documentation. In that box may well go copies of your important documents. You want to have the hard copies in there as well. You'll have other things in there as well, like if you're going to a centre, you might have some drinking water, you might have your medications and that type of thing. So there's a whole list of stuff you put in a box when you're going to have a grab box to put in the car. Because you don't want to be held up when the fire's coming, when the policeman knocks on the door and says, get out, you've got 5 minutes, the fire's coming, you're going to die if you don't move. You think, shit, what am I going to take? Well, the grandchildren's photos in the other drawer, I'll get them out, I'll do this and do that. It's going to take 5 minutes, it's going to be chewed up looking for the photos. You forget everything else. So if you've got some way of having them in the box, in a room somewhere, where you can just grab things, take them straight out, put them in the car and drive. First thing is just look at the cover, and that's basically what this is all about. If you can't outrun it or outlast it, so plan to outsmart it. And this is where the plan is, where your bushfire survival plan's buried into here. This is an abbreviated version and probably a lot better. So to open it up, you'll probably tear it, but there's a little, it says open here. Somehow you've got to get your thumb under it and pull that little flap out like that so it lifts up. You're not going to do it today, but you should go home and fill it in as a family, as a household basically, how we work through it. And in here it gives you 2 steps. And you know the 2 steps. You're going to go early or you're going to stay and defend. Basically that's always been the 2 steps. We encourage people as firefighters to go early, okay? But really at the end it's up to you guys how you do it. And this is how you're going to be informed. So this is not quite leading into your plan just yet. It says be informed and make the decision. Use the items in this folder and make sure you know the bushfire warning systems. This is critical to know before you actually make any major decisions when a wildfire's coming down the road at you. You'll find this information to decide and use this information if you want to leave and go early or to defend for bushfire. Okay, turn over and begin. So, okay, so pull out, now the bushfire warning symbols. 1A, and it has a picture of an old burnt tank on the front. You open it up like that, and there it is there. So bushfire warning systems, how and when to use them. And it says in there, don't wait for the text message or knock on the door for emergency services. Catastrophic fire conditions. If a fire is that intense, the only option is to leave the area of risk before it's too late. So we're always saying leave and leave early. So these 2 here are what you see on the news in the evening, or you might see in this shire down the road, the old indicator type signs. These days they're electronic. So the one on this side over here, where it gives you the different ratings. The other side of the page is the bushfire warning systems. This is pretty important because you see that on your radio and on your TV, and also coming over the radio every 15 minutes on the hour or whatever, depending on which one it is, where it's an emergency warning, a watch and act, or an advice. And let's go down to the advice first. So the advice, which is the bottom one, the blue one there. If you see an advice coming up, And you may go on the Emergency WA webpage, that was advice. What's this about? It was advice at Gracetown or something. You know? It means there's a fire started over there, there's no immediate danger. You've got to stay alert and watch for signs of a fire. So that's an advice. Just be aware that's around there. You might have been planning a trip to Gracetown. You might, I don't think I'll go today. I'll go down to Hamlin Bay or something, right? So it's a little bit different. So be aware there's a fire around. That's what it says. The watch and act, the next one up, the next level up. The fire is approaching and is out of control. So it's got to be closer now. It's coming up Caves Road towards your house over there. So you put your plan into action. We talk about plans, bushfire survival plans. There's been a lot of surveys and studies about bushfire survival plans, and I've heard different figures. Population of Australia, depends where you live. The real written bushfire survival plans, which are in here, around about 15% of the population has one. Some people say it's low as 5. Okay. This time of the year, there's probably been a fair few rewritten quickly. Okay. But yes, it's not a big uptake as far as bushfire survival plans. Historically, it's not. Okay. That's why it's important as people like you coming to a meeting, giving up your time, that you put in the effort at the end of the day when you go back, do your plan. It's a lot easier, because I'll explain why in a minute. So that's the watch and act. Put your plan into place. Stay if you're only mentally or physically able to defend your property. If not, go early. And that'll be one of your trigger points to know where to go. So we'll talk about that in a minute. The emergency warning, that's when it's pretty bad. It's right at the doorstep, and it's going to come in or around your buildings. It's out of control, approaching it very fast. Need to act immediately to survive. If you haven't prepared your home and it's too late, you must leave now or do so if it's safe to do so. And when emergency warnings, sometimes around here, like in Victoria, it is too late, because if you think about the roads, the trees fall across the roads and you're trapped. So sometimes I think about staying at home anyway. But once again, it depends where you live. If you've got a clear road, you may be able to get out. Pull out, put the one side if you like, and pull out the next little piece of paper. Choose my bushfire plan. Now, it's only one sheet this time. You've got to turn around the back of it. What will your household do if there's a bushfire? Be safe and leave early is what we say, or be prepared to stay and defend. Now, I'm not going to go through this, but really you need to go through this at home, and that'll sort of tick a few points in what you're going to do. You can answer those questions. Basically, if you answer yes to all the 6 questions, you can go and stay in your house and prepare to look after your house. But if you answer no or unsure to any of the 6 questions, go to a safe place and leave early. So you've got to get all those correct as far as a yes goes to all those answers if you're going to stay and defend. Let's go to this one here, 2A. And hopefully this is the one you're going to utilise a lot and look at. So to be safe and leave early. This is what we're trying to push for all the members certainly in our area. You've decided to be safe and leave early. Use the items in this folder to complete your action plan and prepare for your property and your emergency kit. Turn over to begin. So 2A, yeah, so this is your little plan. It says on the front, the radiant heat from the fire can kill two football fields away. Plan to be safe and leave early. I just want to emphasise the fact, and it's a good point, radiant heat is a big killer. It's the heat itself. The fires we had in Victoria a few years ago, we lost 170 odd people. They found people deceased in the middle of the football oval. No fire around there, okay? Just the radiant heat and the lack of oxygen, you'll fall over, and then you'll die and you'll asphyxiate. You can't breathe. So be aware of that. It's the radiant heat, and the fuel loading and the kilowatts that sort of bush out there will give off is enough to, you will know about heat, you get close to big fires, and it's very dangerous. And it's dangerous not only to you people, but also to firefighters. So beware as firefighters going anywhere near your house or up your street, they've got one priority, themselves, okay? The first priority is looking after life, okay? And that's their life first and then your life second, okay? They're not going to take crews up to somewhere where they're going to lose their crew members or their own lives. If you've got a driveway to your house which is full of vegetation this high and the radiant heat kilowatts coming off that, it's going to take all the paintwork off the side of the truck. There's no way they're going to go up there. So just be aware of that. So the Be Safe and Leave Early plan, open it up and you can have a look at that. And once again, this is what you do when you're at home as a family. You can see the questions you've got to answer there, and on the other side, and of course that little part there where it has the little scissors and the dotted lines, what you cut off, and that is your plan, this part here. Very simplified, nothing too difficult to fill in. The little other side of the page where the arrows are pointing us, it gives you little hints about what you might want to consider when you're filling in those pages, those parts 1 to 7. When will you leave? Oh, okay. I'll wait to see the flames before you evacuate. It's too late. Okay, so don't wait to see the flames. Okay, when are you going to leave? You've got to make your mind about this. And it talks about the limited number of trucks and that type of thing. Now, one of your points might be, when am I going to leave? I'm going to leave early. When the warning system goes up to, say, not catastrophic in that sort of area, and you're realising then it's an emergency warning coming through, your phones might go off, I'm getting out of here. That might be one way you could write in there. That's where I'm leaving then. You might be leaving when you see fire activity 2 kilometres away. You might be leaving because you know that when I do leave, I'm going to go to my good friend's house, who's the farmer up the road, lives in the green paddock, but he's between here and the fire. So I've got to judge it to know that I can get to his house first. So there's a bit of planning going on where your safer place might be, or which way you're going to go. Where you are, I'm going to leave, then I'm going to drive down to the Brown-up Forest. Good idea? Brown-up Forest full of carry trees. Carry trees spot 10 kilometres. Okay. The fires in Canberra this afternoon, they were calling 10 kilometre spots from the major fire off those hills at the back of Canberra. So be aware of that. Where you've got lots of smoke, and a lot of guys have been in fires, we don't see the flames. We just put up with the smoke. Unless you're right on the fire, which you shouldn't be anyway, you'll see the flames. But most of the thing you'll see is just smoke. And you don't have any idea where the fire is because it's blowing towards you. Not stressing about what to do. You've got plenty of time to get the animals and the pets in the car. We're going to go shopping in Busselton today, just to get out of here. If anything happens, it happens. At least you're out of the way, well out of the way. Who will you call? You've got your little group, your Facebook group. Let people know. It's important you let people know in your little group itself that you're going to leave. Okay, so there's nobody, stressing about you if the fire develops and comes up the back of your block or something, and they're looking for you, thinking you're out there with a garden hose when you're not. You're actually shopping in the Kmart in Busselton or something. So people should be told. Certainly your close neighbours, it's important. There is no way, and we haven't heard it. We've heard different ways of informing the firefighters that you have gone as such. You hear a lot of things going on these days. People put Coles bags over their street indicator numbers. They're all run numbers, they're green numbers on their properties. That gets used sometimes. And lots of different things, red buckets on things. And well, I've heard all this code, but nobody tells us what the code is. So until they get organised and work out some system knowing that there's nobody there, it's hard for the police, it's hard for the SES, it's hard for the firefighters to knock on doors, and activate the person left an hour ago. It's pretty hard. But if you ring and let people know, it's a good idea. Your neighbours I'm talking about. Which way would you go? Yeah, route 1, 2 or 3. Depends on where the fire's coming from. You can go north, south, and you can go east. If you want to go that way, yeah, bring your bathing gear with you, because that's what a lot of people go and have been going that way. And if we go into probably in Narrabeen, sometimes that's the only place they can go when this road gets locked off. What will you take? Hopefully you'll take your box of important documents and all the other stuff. What is your backup plan if things don't go to plan? You're about to jump in the car and you see a big gum tree just fall across your driveway. And you know that your father didn't sharpen the chainsaw the day before, so you're not going to cut your way through that big tree. So you're going to stay at home. You don't want to, but you'll have to. Curtains off. If you're going into your house and the fire's going to impact, you go to a house where you've got a back door and the room you're in is away from the fire front. In most cases that'll be, in some cases, the laundry or the kitchen where you've got a way to get out. If you've got some way of stuffing stuff under the doorways to stop the smoke coming in. It always helps. So, and have buckets of water and that type of thing, and wait for the impact of the fire to come through. Most fires start slowly in houses, and it's mainly driven by embers. Once again, it's to do with going early, but preparing yourself. And I touched on that, preparing your emergency kit, and that's this little box here of all the gear in it. And that's the sort of stuff you can have in it at home. If you haven't got one, you should have one by now, in a place where you can grab it quickly. Things like essential, like drinking water. The battery-powered radio is pretty important because you can listen to the local radios and pick up what's happening. Emergency contact numbers, so you don't forget. If you've got them on your phone, okay, that's fine, but what happens if your phone goes flat? So the other thing is you've got to have a charger for your phones these days. People tend to forget all those. Bushfire protective clothing. You still see guys waiting for the fire to come, standing on their roof with their thongs and their shorts, hosing down their roofs. And the ambulance guy is sitting there, just counting on his fingers how many more minutes before he falls off the slippery roof. If you go and pick him up. So yeah, make sure you've got the right sort of gear on. Now, if it's summertime, it's hot. You don't want to put long sleeves and everything, but really, it's be a blessing if you do. If you get anywhere near the fire, long sleeve shirts, long trousers on, if you deal with that. And of course, if you've got any P2 masks, I understand they're going pretty cheap at the chemist these days. I think they've tripled the price because of something else, coronavirus. If you haven't got the P2 mask, I suggest you get to the hardware or the chemist shops pretty quick because they're selling out. So that sort of thing would be in there as well. And that's just to protect it from the smoke, not from the coronavirus. Well, it would help as well, I suppose, and let's say it would. Important things like your wallet, your medication, we talked about that, spare clothes. And also, don't forget your pets. And the clothing is on the little diagram in the back there. If you can have all that gear, great. That sort of stuff you might ensure you've got if you don't if you're starting to defend, you'll need all that as well. That's the other one in there, isn't it? That's that C. Yep. You've should have already done this by now, cutting all your grass and cleaning your gutters. You can clean your gutters today, you'll have to do it again tomorrow. This hot weather, when it's coming through, I've got a marry tree next to my house, so never ending. Yeah, got to get up there every day and clean their gutters if we have to. I try to get up there and blow them out, and I wash them out and blow them out. I've got leaf guard on the worst part, so it helps, but yeah, it's always a hassle. But depending on the design of your house and the embers, some of you might have sprinklers, some of you might have boxed eaves, some of you might have open eaves. It's a risk in there. It is a risk, and I shouldn't say it's not a risk, but as far as the embers catching on all those leaves, yes, they're going to burn through that strip through there. But also, if you've got it, that far away from your house, it's got to catch. That fire's got to go through the tin, catch the fascia board or whatever it's joined to, and work its way up the rafter. It takes time to do that. But I'm not saying you shouldn't clean the gutters, but that's if the worst case scenario. Where versus the embers go out, sitting up on the top of your wall plate or getting underneath your door, or catching fire over your core mat on the front door, bigger risk than the leaves in the gutter. And I'm not saying that because my leaves are full of gutter, my leaves in the gutter, but something you've got to be aware of. It's a balancing trick, so you can make sure you do the best you can in that regard. And the couple of last things there we talk about is making sure that you've got the house well protected as far as shrubs and trees. We'll talk about that. Gas cylinders, if you've got time before you leave, is to make sure you turn your gas off and turn the vent, the round, where the relief vent around facing away from the building, if you've got a timber building, away from the building. So if the gas bottles do heat up with a lot of the radiant heat and they start to vent, because it's a liquid in there at the moment, okay, so when it's released it turns into a vapour and goes through to your stove, but it'll heat up and vent. It'll give too much pressure. Automatic, bang, I'll blow a little valve and it'll just shoot out gas. Now it's shooting out gas, there's a bit of flame around, boom, it's going to catch on fire. Not a big problem, as long as it's not pointing towards something that's going to catch on fire. If it's going straight out towards your lawn, it'll slowly go out. You don't want it turned the other way, so undo it, turn it off, make sure you've got your gas bottles pointing away, the little relief vent where your taps are. Windows, meshes and that type of thing, we talked about blocking underneath the eaves and lots of other bits and pieces if you're staying in that area. As far as the fire truck access, make sure your driveways are clear and all your fire breaks. You need to read through that as best you can and try to There's the other plan, 2B, to be or not to be prepared and stay and defend. Once again, it's a checklist on there. It's similar to the same with the other people there who are not fit enough to do it are not there. In other words, they go early anyway if you're going to stay there and defend your house. Turn off your air conditioning unit, things like that. Fill any water containers, blankets under the doorways, take your curtains down, torches and ladders into your ceiling space if you've got to get up there and put the fires out. Make sure there's no burning combustible material next to the house. Block your downpipes, fill all your gutters up with water. Turn off your gas supply. I've already mentioned a lot of this stuff. Then the little box says, I understand fully what is required and still want to stay. Oh, okay. So you go to point 2, read that one. As the fire front approaches, bring all the hoses and fittings, what have you, inside. Move everywhere into the house where you can see the flames and they're not too hot. Then you've got to work out, so I think, when will you put in your plan of action? Well, same as before, when are you going to have that trigger point of saying, I'm going to stay and defend 1 kilometre away the fire, you know it's going to be a bad fire, you know that everybody's left, you know, your partner, your wife and the children have all gone safely. When do I turn the taps on, when do I do all this stuff? Well, it's really a judging where the fire is and when you think you're strong enough to do that activity as far as putting out spot fires on your lawns and what have you. And don't worry, if you've got a green lawn, they still burn. You might have heard the guys in the eastern states were quite amazed that they were getting 1 metre flame height on green lawns. Right? Why does that happen? That's radiant heat. That's just a breakdown in the chemical reaction of the vegetation. And that just goes straight towards the house or away from the house. Unbelievable when you've got so much heat. And if there's that much heat, I can't imagine you standing there too long. You wouldn't survive. Okay, and it says in there where you're trapped. We talked about the room you go to, so that's the sort of plan you'll be looking at. So hopefully you don't give that too much consideration when you're doing your planning. That's preparing to stay and defend in that area. So the easy one is 2A, when we look at preparing to go and going early. Thanks for coming today. Have a safe trip home. Okay, thanks.